Okay. While we're finished with our break, we'll call the next speaker.
The next person I have is Barbara Thompson.
How do I unmute this? Am I unmuted?
No, you're not on mute. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Barbara Thompson, BarbaraThompson. I am against the intrusive wind turbine project. I heard the gentleman speak a little bit earlier about how they parasail, paraglide off of Forest Heaven Hills, and I can attest to that because they've landed in my backyard. And we actually have a lot of paragliders who use Forest Heaven Hills to recreate in. I've already submitted most of my comments, but one of the things that glares out to me is that with all of the wildlife and protected species, in the 1990s, a whole logging industry was shut down for the spotted owl. And I don't understand how all these rules can be submitted and changed to put in a wind farm, solar farm, and willy-nilly make these changes. So later on in an agricultural area like this, and they put in an industry like that, if the political climate changes in the state, will they be able to go and put other industries in agriculture areas? And I'd also like to know about the economics of it, since they've been building wind farms. 2004, there's a number that popped up in one of the articles I was reading that they spent $90 billion on wind farms, and yet they only contribute 7% of our nation's total electrical energy needs. Their lifespan is only 10 to 20 years, and at the end of their operation, they have to be decommissioned, hauled by truck to the Midwest, and buried in special landfills. Hydro dams, nuclear power.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Carl Baker. Do we have a Carl Baker on the line? Oh, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, Carl Baker, C-A-R-L, B-A-K-E-R. And I'm in favor of the project. I'm, pretty sympathetic to a lot of the concerns that have been raised. But I do think that the involved landowners and business involved, should be able to get to use their resources to make money and engage in economic activity in our community. So I don't see that we have enough negative effects from this project to stop it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I have Lloyd Fred Lieske. Do we have a Lloyd Fred Lieske on the line?
Yes, right here.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. First name Lloyd, L-L-O-Y-D. Last name Lieske, L-I-E-S-K-E. I am not in favor of this oversized, badly located wind turbine proposal. It's located on prime land, prime farmland. We need to be saving and relishing the bountiful farmlands in Benton County. These lands are highly productive and will be even more valued as populations worldwide continue their explosive growth. 2 weeks ago, the editorial page in the Tri-Cities made the statement that the Tri-Cities would be giving up way too much if they go for the wind farms. What would they be giving up? They would be giving up beautiful vistas that support a wine industry and tourism. They would be giving up views that we relish. They'd be giving up the migratory birds that use the Pacific flight path over that area. They would be giving up far more than most people realize. It's funny, the Endangered Species Act has not been mentioned tonight. The pharyngeus hawk falls into that, and I believe there's a burrowing owl that falls into that. The Tri-Cities already does have abundant electricity. We don't need these wind farms, so why are they put here? It just does not make sense. I fear that one bad decision can lead to another. The governor and Patty Murray did their own study on the removal of the Snake River dams. They stated alternative power generation must be in place first before the dams can be removed. The 4 Snake River dams provide 1,000 megawatts of electricity. The proposed wind farm with solar panels produces 1,150 megawatts. It can happen. Thank you.
Next, I have Ted Lewis.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Ted Lewis, Tedlewis. I agree with all my neighbors who are against this wind farm project. It's ill-conceived. It's an ill-conceived plan, and it's going to do more harm than good. We don't need it, and we don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Joan Lewis.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. For all of the reasons, I'm sorry, I'm getting an
there
echo
is
from
an
my husband. He's
echo.
right here with his tablet, so I'll start over. For all the reasons expressed by those opposing, I am adamantly against this massive intrusive turbine wind project. We need to encourage more nuclear and hydropower projects. Many of the new jobs mentioned at the beginning will be numerous, but will be reduced drastically after the project is completed. Again, I am adamantly opposed to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Derek Stricker.
Good afternoon, my name is Derek Stricker, DERRICK STRICKER. My family and I are not in favor of this massive intrusive wind turbine project. The future growth of our growing MSA is confined by the Columbia River, which leads to the future commercial and residential growth along the southern boundaries of Kenwood. This project not only interferes, it stops the ability for our economy to grow in this region, which will severely hurt our supply and demand for our local population growth, economic prosperity, and free market principles. As a young professional, I'm already planning and working towards what best helps our community by 2050. This project directly impacts our future negatively and diminishes the history of what we have built here in the Tri-Cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Charles Barnett.
Charles Barnett, CHARLES BARNETT. I'm strongly against this Horseheaven Hills wind farm project. I'm a licensed pilot and enjoyed many hours of updraft flight along the proposed area of this project, as do many large birds and migratory birds and that soar along that ridge line. This project would prohibit my enjoyment and that of the birds of prey and their natural desire to soar and hunt for food. I fear that many birds will be killed and or injured because of this project. Next, I live in Benton City, Washington. I'm about 1.5 miles from the project. We have 40 acres there. I've lived there for 50 years. The visual aesthetics for this project will lower my attitude and my property value. The movement of the blades during the day and the flashing lights at night will be very distracting and unnatural to the area. This project does not benefit the U.S. manufacturers that sends our tax money overseas. The power is not slated to be used here locally. It's set to go away from the area. And yet the people that's using the power doesn't want it in their backyard. That's why they want to put it in our backyard. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm strongly against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dan Worth.
Dana Ward?
No, it's Dan Worth. Dana
Okay.
Ward is a little lower.
Thank you.
No problem. Dan,
do you
are
hear
you?
me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dan. Yes.
Okay. It's Dan Worth, DANWIRTH. And in regarding the Horse Heaven Wind Farm, my opinion is this country needs all the clean energy it can produce, whether it be wind, solar, thermal, hydroelectric, or nuclear. I am not discounting the continuing need for fossil fuels until we can transition to 100% clean energy. In regard to the Scout Windmill Farm, my opinion is to use the larger windmills in fewer numbers at the farthest distance feasible from view. I do not feel that they will cause a detrimental effect to the environment or animal habitat. The benefits of the wind and solar farm will outweigh any negatives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim Atkins.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. First off, I'd like to talk about the water issues. On table ES-5 talks about traffic, transportation traffic, and not being much of an issue, but there's a letter from the Port of Walla Walla saying that they can support the Horse Heaven Hills Wind Project with 40 water trucks per day, and it doesn't state how many gallons these trucks are, and it doesn't state a route they take. So that is a significant impact to the community. Also, on table ES3-B says wastewater is 5,000 gallons per day, but it doesn't state how they're going to get rid of that. There should be something. It also states ENR-5, they're going to capture and recycle wash water. They should have a plan for that. And as I stated, the water trucks would come from Wallula Dodd Road. That's at Iowa Beef. Regarding the shadow flicker SF-2, it has a 1-year complaint line to be reassessed after 1 year. That's if you have a complaint, you can call in and they'll log it down. Well, if they're going to log it down, they should give a log number to the person who's calling in to complain so that they can follow up with EFSEC and ensure the issue is being addressed. The other thing is who's going to have oversight of this project? With all these mitigation issues, somebody needs to be oversight of what's going on. Who's going to pay for that oversight? The Washington residents, and how are we to know that Scout Energy is being honest and truthful? Because when you look at Washington State should have full and control power over all these mitigating issues. That means to stop what they're doing, to halt the project, to make sure they're in compliance.
Thank
when
you.
I talk
You're
about,
out of time.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Next, we have Judy Goosey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Judy Goosey, Judy Guse.
Who will be liable when there's a turbine fire that spits oil-laden debris over vast areas, igniting further fires and spewing smoke and fumes from dangerous chemicals for miles into the atmosphere, uncontrolled or managed? Fires from turbines are extremely toxic. Who knows what the ultimate damage these toxic plumes will be to people, particularly to children and the elderly, and to wildlife and fish in rivers and streams. Because of the turbine height, the fire department crew can do little but watch it burn itself out. Our county doesn't have a fire department with resources, knowledge, or equipment to fight a fire on a 671-foot tall turbine in a desert where there are copious amounts of tumbleweeds and dried grasses that burn rapidly and will spread quickly to surrounding homes. Hundreds of acres can be consumed in a single turbine fire, and just one fire incident can cost up to $4.5 million to contain. Who will be liable for the damage to crops, the loss of human life, homes, and animals? We are dealing with high voltage machines called aerogenerators high in the sky, operating with hundreds of gallons of oil and lubricants subject to fires. Research suggests that one of the main ignition sources for fires and turbines is lightning strikes. We have a lot of dry lightning strikes in our area. Our area is a high fire risk because of our desert climate, where our vegetation is a primed tinderbox for fire in the summer. Wind developers provide no protection to individuals or communities that have these wind projects imposed upon them with lack of control, regulation, and protection for people, animals, landscapes, and communities. There is no universal fire protection guideline that is enforceable. Any other industry would be and is required to have much more accountability. There needs to be fire protection in place that will put out a turbine fire before it spreads to nearby homes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeannie Pauline.
I'm Jeannie Pauline. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. It's Jeannie, Jeanie, last name Pauline, P like Paul, O like Orange, L like Linda, E like Edward, H like Henry, N like Nancy. And I have submitted these comments to EFSEC already, but I want to bring out that I have not seen any thing in the EIS where they have contacted the Washington State Farmland Preservation. And we're going to be losing that farmland, and we need the farmland to eat, folks. The contamination of that farmland with rare earths, which become hazardous materials and cannot be removed from those soils. So it will be basically poisoned. We'll have the loss of the visual scenery. No photos are provided in that EIS of actually seeing what the homeowners will see, as well as the loss and valuation of their property. And then we have blowing dust where we can't even see the streets and the houses across from us. And this will add to that blowing dust scenario and impact people's health and cause health issues. Also, I haven't seen anything on tectonic movement of the areas where the wind turbines will be located. I haven't seen that it's been adequately tested for or anything like that in there. And then wind turbines do not provide on-demand power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it does not interrupt the current power system, and it will also raise the cost of electric power. And that hasn't been dealt with. And on separate from the EIS, the funding for the decontamination and decommissioning of the project needs to be looked at.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have Jean Goosey.
Yes, I just want to say that I'm not in favor of this massive wind project. That's all.
Thank you. Up next, we have Joe Lorera.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So let me spell my name first. Jose, last name Loera, Loera. I've lived in Tri-Cities for over 35 years. I watched this community grow into just a beautiful, vibrant community. And I see absolutely nothing positive with this wind farm coming into Tri-Cities. From my perspective, it's going to be detrimental to our wildlife, going to be detrimental to our scenic views. The jobs that they're talking about going to be short term and only going to be there while they build the project, and afterwards our jobs are going to be minimal, is my understanding. And then finally, the power company locally is saying this isn't something that we need for this community. So I absolutely have to say this is a hard no. Not interested in a wind farm in Tri-Cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patricia Lorera. Is Patricia Loera on the line?
Yes, this is Patricia Loera.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Patricia, last name Loera, Loera. I would like to voice my opposition to this project. I strongly believe that this wind farm project is of no benefit to our beautiful local community. My main objections are what the negative impact it will have on our wildlife, our birds, migratory and otherwise, and our beautiful natural vistas. Simply stated, this is too big of a project. It's too close to too many people, and it'll impact so many people. Our community is growing every day, and this is not the place to build a big, giant wind farm project so close to a metropolitan area. We need to protect our rural natural habitat in the Tri-Cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Teresa Mercer.
Where are you? I mean, yeah, my purse.
Do we have a Teresa Mercer on the line? I will go ahead and call the next person. Dana Ward.
Yes, this is Dana Ward, D-A-N-A-W-A-R-D. I'm the Conservation Chair for the Lower Columbia Basin Audubon Society, situated in the Tri-Cities. My comments will be strictly to the biological resources. Thank you for allowing me to make a comment. The seriousness of climate change and the resulting impact to human life, the environment, and welfare of the earth relies on intelligent actions to limit carbon emissions from fossil fuels and other sources. The construction of solar arrays and wind turbines are an important step to slow or even reverse global warming. The Lower Columbia Basin Audubon Society supports well-planned solar and wind turbine projects, but they must be sited reasonably and must take into account, as a minimum, biological habitat and biological resources that would be impacted. From our review of the DEIS, it falls well short of attaining this goal. To allow the adequate environmental review, the final EIS for the Horseheaven Hills must include a specific site design, identification, and analysis of reasonable alternatives that minimize or eliminate impacts to the environmental resources, such as disappearing shrub steppe habitat, avian species such as ferruginous hawks and burrowing owls, as well as prey species such as ground squirrels. In a broader sense, the EIS must address the likely environmental impacts associated with specific siting decisions and specific mitigation measures, with associated performance measures that address the regional impacts to birds, mammals, and plant populations and their habitat connectivity. We have submitted 20 pages of specific comments, and we have a review of 4 issues. The DEIS does not provide enough information to analyze likely environmental impacts. Issue 2, the draft environmental impact does not...
Excuse me, Dana, you are now out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, I have Bradley Wagner.
Yeah, ran out of time. I didn't think I had more than 2 minutes. Whoops.
Do we have Bradley Wagner on the line? I will go ahead and call the next person. Lori Matson.
Hi, I'm Lori Matson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lori Matson, Lorimatson. I'm president and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. As the 5th largest chamber in Washington, representing over 900 businesses ranging from sole proprietors to the largest employers in the Bi-County region, we urge EFSEC to consider our community's voice in this proposal. The state energy strategy asserts that public and community participation is important to ensure energy policy is informed by local knowledge, meets local needs, and is viewed as legitimate by the local community. By the state's own analysis, this region's hydroelectric and nuclear power is 93% non-emitting and impacts a substantial smaller footprint with several times the effective load carrying capacity. This project would be just a few miles from a major population center of 300,000+ residents. The size and scale is inconsistent with the Benton County Land Use Plan, inconsistent with the character of the surrounding land use, and at the height of the Space Needle, these 244 wind structures would create an incredible barrier to our local economy. Recreation and tourism provides over $500 million annually to our local economy. Suggested mitigation to recreation and tourism impacts amount to suggestions that regional partners wholly identify new recreational activities. Suggested light and glare mitigation strategies do not account for the vast difference in scale that the proposed turbines are from existing installations, encompassing 72,000 acres of land and exceeding the Space Needle in height area surrounded by no other infrastructure of the same height and number. Please consider the negative impacts to the Tri-Cities and recognize that this project is not informed by local knowledge, does not meet local needs, and is not viewed as legitimate by the local community.
Thank you. Up next, I have Doug Fearing.
Hi, Doug Fearing, Doug Fearing. I'm adamantly opposed to this project. I'm a 74-year community resident, and I'd like to address a few of the claims regarding wind farms and their impact. We hear claims made about how many houses a particular wind farm will power. Maybe it's 1,000 or even 2,000. The truth is, if the wind isn't blowing, they won't even power one house. Claims are made that wind power is economical to produce. I've read where wind turbines will generally never make it to the break-even point in energy production versus cost during the life of the generator. We hear that wind power is a great energy source. Well, so is lightning, but they both share a common problem called reliability. We'll hear arguments tonight about the jobs this wind farm will create. Earthquakes, tornadoes, and tsunamis all create jobs. The creation of jobs in of itself has nothing to do with the merits of wind energy as a power source. I understand this project means income, but I ask our union workers to take a hard look at their community and consider the fact these are short-term jobs with long-term results. Results that disfigure our community, destroy our skyline, and essentially and effectively will shut down one of the only true corridors for growth the city of Kennewick has. The Horseheaven Hills are not scablands. They're occupied by farms and numerous multi-million-dollar homes and as prime view property. The undisputed fact is that building these machines near a residential area severely devalues property and homes. Windmills aren't built on national monuments or in parks because why? They're an eyesore. If these wind turbines are built along the crest of the Horseheaven Hills, we might as well build a big wall there with a sign hanging from it saying, here's where Kennewick ends. This last year, I spoke at a public meeting without.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Please submit the rest of your comments in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I have Dave Drollinger.
Yes, my name is Dave Drollinger, DAVE-DROLLINGER. I'm here to simply state that I'm adamantly opposed to this project. I think it's just another good old-fashioned boondoggle like this country has seen off and on since its inception. And I think it's also, unfortunately, a virtue signaling scheme to make people feel good. We've got this type of energy is hugely inefficient. Nuclear power is much greener, much more prolific of an energy producer, order of magnitude greater. What this project would do, like the gentleman before me said, that the only growth Kennewick has is to the south. And all of that is prime real estate property whose property values are going to be incredibly devalued because of their existence. And there's hardly a way to put a price on it, but it'll be over the course of 50 years, easily in the tens of millions of dollars. And so the bottom line is this project is not necessarily for here or any other place in the country. And the appearance of it is like graffiti, and it's graffiti that the proponents of who's going to benefit, the few that are going to benefit from this, they wouldn't want this graffiti on their home or their neighborhood any more than we want it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ira Johnson.
Hi, I'm Ira Johnson, IRAJOHNSON, and I am against this scam. That's what it is. It's a scam. take all the pros that we've heard tonight and all the cons against it. And there's no reason for these to be put anywhere, let alone our backyard. First off, they're made in China, people. Why are we making another country rich? Why don't we make them here if you're gonna make them? They're not recyclable. Where are you gonna put the junk? We do like China, we send them our garbage, they're gonna take it out to the sea and dump it, and then it'll wash ashore. It's not dependable. They wear out. And mainly, they're not cost effective. If it wasn't for us taxpayers, the federal government subsidizing those things, they wouldn't be put in. If they're so dependable and so cost effective, let that engineering company that wants to put them in at their expense. And we'll see if it happens. It won't. This will affect banks. This will affect investors. And most importantly, us taxpayers who are here faced with the consequences. Now, of course, you can justify anything. You've got to realize I'm Texas, and I learned years ago from a guy named Billy Saul Estes who sold fertilizer tanks, and they didn't even exist. So you can sell and justify anything, but I beg you to take and pray over this when you make your decision. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Up next, I have Linda Manka. Do we have Linda Manka on the line? I will go ahead and call the next person, who is the last person on my list, Travers Bracey.
Travers Bracey, TraversBracy. I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said by most of the people on this call, but I'd just like to point out that community members that have talked and pointed out their opposition are all from around here. The people who seem to be for this wind project all seem to be not from around here, especially the union members who have been put up and given the canned speeches and talking points by their international organization. There's plenty of job opportunities for electricians, contractors, construction workers in this industry, in this area, and this wind farm won't even be a drop in the bucket. There's electricians that are looking for jobs, union and non-union, all the time, and there's plenty of work for them. So that's not a justifiable excuse to put this wind farm in. The best argument against that I've heard tonight that I'd like to reinforce is the lack of water and a good plan for how they're going to get rid of these windmills when they're all worn out. Another thing that I haven't heard tonight is the antelope population that has been reintroduced to the Horseheaven Hills. It's grown greatly in the last few years. It's pretty awesome to see the herds up there. When you drive through the roads and the farmlands, you'll see them grazing along. Very good environment for them. So that's another impact to the environment that these constructions and windmills will impact. I don't know any other antelope population that lives under windmills, but I just urge the committee to do the right thing and turn down this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public meeting on the draft environmental impact statement for the Horseheaven proposal. Again, you have till 11:59 p.m. tonight to submit public comments in writing at www.efsec.wa.gov. Thank you very much and good night.